Hello, welcome everyone. Here you are for the Ecovillages in Slovenia webinar. I'm so glad that you're here. I'm so glad that you're interested in this tiny country called Slovenia that is very near and dear to my heart. My name is Cynthia, and I am the founder of Ecovillage Tours, and I'm calling in from where I live in Vermont. And I'm very happy to be joined by my dear friend Nara, who is Slovene and is right now in Slovenia, where it is evening time there. Nara, you want to say hi to everyone?
Hello, great to be here.
Yeah, cool. I'm super excited to talk about this tour. The Ecovillage Tour in Slovenia was our very first Ecovillage tour and was born out of a lot of love for the country of Slovenia and the unique places and people and features that it has to offer. So very excited to dive into this short 1-hour webinar with you. And feel free, folks, to ask any questions or leave comments in the comment box. If you registered for this event, you can leave a comment directly through StreamYard, or if you're watching on any of the platforms that we're streaming to, Facebook, YouTube, etc., you can also leave comments, and Nara and I will be able to see those comments and answer your questions. And hello, of course, to people who are watching the replay of this. We are live streaming on April 6, 2024. All right, so I'm going to kick things off by sharing my screen here. So just give me a moment. There we are. Okay. So once again, this is a webinar all about eco-villages in Slovenia. And Slovenia is known as Europe's green gem, a very green, very lush country with a lot of biodiversity on the sunny side of the Alps. So it does have an alpine region, and it is on the southern slope, so it gets a lot of sunshine as well. And we'll talk here soon about the geography of Slovenia and pinpoint exactly for you on a map where it is, because I know there's sometimes some confusion about that. And up front, I want to share with you that during this webinar, we're going to be talking about our Ecovillage Tour in Slovenia that's coming up this June. So June 22nd to the 30th, it's a 9-day tour, and would love anyone who is interested to come and join. You can learn more about it at ecovillagetours.com/Slovenia. All right, so jumping in here, let's start with the obvious. Slovenia is not Slovakia, although oftentimes when I tell people, because I'm so passionate about this country, I've spent a lot of years there, and whenever I mention it, especially to Americans, they're like, "Oh yeah, I love Slovakia. I've heard so much about it." And it's like, no. So not to confuse, Slovenia is a small country that borders Italy. So yes, does have a border with Italy, has a strong Italian influence, also bordering Austria, Hungary, and Croatia. So it's really this small country. It's actually, the landmass is the same as the state of Vermont, where I live. So that's interesting. You know, if you could imagine this little state of Vermont, that's actually a whole country that has stood throughout history really at the crossroads of all of these different cultures. And you see that when you visit Slovenia, of the diversity of the languages and the cuisine, as well as the rich landscape that's very diverse from the Mediterranean coastal regions up into the Alpine regions. And of course, much of the country is covered in rolling hills and farms. And Nara, do you want to paint a little bit more of a picture about Slovenia and some of its history and what people can experience when they go there?
I like to say it's a blend of Italian Tuscany in the southwestern parts. Some cities are resembling Prague in Czech Republic, with great architecture and influences from Austro-Hungarians and Germanic nations. Plus, there is a very strong, almost like a Swiss feel with alpine peaks. popping up above the landscape, even from Sunny Hill, where I'm situated now in this small community. We can see the Alps in the west, all the way across Italy. So it's a place on the borders between so many different influences, and that makes it really exquisite.
Yeah, such an exquisite country, and it's amazing how little known it is. I think Slovenia, like Croatia, is starting to come on the map more and more,
Mhm.
but it's really still very much a hidden gem. And that's why when people want to visit Slovenia, they go to places like this, which is Lake Bled. It's probably, one of the few maybe icons you know about in Slovenia. Very beautiful and also a very popular tourist destination, right? And so a lot of tourists. It is one part of Slovenia, but certainly if you just go to Lake Bled or the capital city of Ljubljana, you're missing out on so much more that this country has to offer. And this is the capital city here, Ljubljana, with a beautiful castle up on the hill. And this is just one of the cities that I think Nara had in mind when he was comparing it with Prague. And some of I think you had mentioned even the same architect worked on this city.
Yes, there is a famous architect who worked a lot in Ljubljana and in Prague and in other cities in Europe. Pogachnik. No, sorry. Oh my God! And now I forget it. In any case, there's a famous architect who really worked a lot. He left big trails, big impact on quite a few cities in Europe.
Yeah,
So that's
yeah.
why people compare Ljubljana to Prague a lot, because you can see the resemblance.
Yeah, yeah, it really is stunning. Here's another photo of Ljubljana with some of the bridges and this river canal that runs through the city. And again, amazing, amazing to experience, but we actually don't even include Ljubljana as one of the stops on our Ecovillage tour, just because it's so well trodden by tourists. And the whole point of what we want you to experience on these Ecovillage tours is Slovenia way off the beaten track, really visiting the small eco communities, the local people, dear friends of mine, and especially Nara's, who are really trying to make an impact in terms of melding the traditional culture with innovation to bring about a more sustainable country as a whole. So, yeah, I'll just highlight again what we've gone over thus far. Slovenia, amazing, but it can really be hard to experience the best of Slovenia because most people don't know the country. It's not a popular destination like Italy, even though it borders Italy. A lot of people don't even know that. I was sharing about the webinar earlier today, and somebody was surprised to see a map that Slovenia actually shared a border with Italy. And therefore, most of the guidebooks and tours only go to those well-known spots like Ljubljana, like Lake Bled. And those are places that really locals don't go to as much. It's not a place where you're going to encounter people who are just living their simple lives in a really profoundly connected way with the nature and the ecosystem where they find themselves. And then
And
also because, oh yeah, Nara, did you want to add something?
just to add, I just wanted to add, you know how today every hidden beach, every hidden creek has 5 stars on Google or something. So even though it's hidden, people just flock there because it's special. And with this thing, you go to places where nobody really goes because it's these nooks that they're completely unexplored and undiscovered. It's the gardens of people with amazing views. It's communities where you can find something that's really, really unique. I mean, it's not on the map, and I hope it won't ever be on the map because then it gets spoiled. So that's what we are aiming for. So
Mhm.
don't share it if you come with us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and it's one thing to hear Nara talk about this, but we're gonna show you photos in a minute here of just what we're talking about in terms of connecting with the people and their gardens and their culture. Yeah, and so frankly, you as a tourist coming to Slovenia, you don't have these relationships with the locals. And that's why I am so grateful that I got to travel so much with Nara through this country, because he's really known as the person who's doing a lot of work to connect these sustainability projects. He's very much seen as a pioneer. And so when he comes to these places that we visit, he's not coming, as, oh, okay, I'm bringing you on a tour as a guide. He's really coming as a person who these projects have a lot of respect for, because he's worked with them previously and has a close relationship with as a friend. And soon here, we'll let Nara share more about his background and his story. And then the last point here is that most eco-villages in Slovenia don't have websites or social media. If you go to the webpage for the Slovenia Ecovillage Tour, you might notice that some of the bigger communities we've linked to their website, but a lot of them don't have, such a presence. And so we just have a short description there and some photos. And honestly, that's like the only way that you would find out about these communities, because they're so off the radar to the normal tourist. So all that said, now, we can talk a little bit more about what people will experience compared to just the normal tourists. On this tour, we're really bringing you into the backyards of people who are farmers and homesteaders and people living a simple life. It's amazing. In Slovenia, it's as if everyone has a garden. We can think of, on our other tours, we go to these like specific eco-villages, but in Slovenia, it's almost as if the whole country is one big eco-village, because people are just living this very connected, very traditional way of life. Nara, do you want to talk about this photo in particular and whose house this is?
Yeah, I bet it seems like this to every American. For us Slovenians, it seems like everyday thing. So when everybody has a garden, it's nothing uncommon. But this person here is Dejan Plahuta. He's one of the first eco farmers in Istria, very well connected with the whole region. I think if he was putting buttons in the ground, something would grow, because he has such a feel for the land and for the ground. He's doing biodynamic farming. Also, he has a biodynamic winery. Really, really special person with a big heart and a big connection with the land. In this picture, he always tells you the story about his entire family, from his father, grandfather, great-grandfather, great-great-great-grandfather or something. All these photos are there, and he tells you the whole story about his connection with the land and how these people used to live, and how there used to be a community for centuries there. And he's very sad to see how community is breaking down in these places a lot because of various impacts. So whenever we talk about this eco-village thing, I always see his eyes like open up, and there's a spark in his eye, yeah, to just to work in this direction together with others who are active in Istria, which is the region in the southwest where I am right now. So he's my neighbor, and we're good friends.
Yeah, in this photo, we're actually in the basement in Dan's wine cellar, where, generations have been producing wine. And it's just so special to connect with him. And like Nara said, hear the stories of how he's following in the footsteps of his ancestors, but also now doing it in this certified organic way. So we love supporting Dan. And one thing I will also mention on the earlier side of this webinar is we do include on the Slovenia tour a number of wine tastings. So it would be good if you come on the tour if you have an appreciation for wine, and for wine locally produced by people like Dan.
I have to just add a little bit of like a small story from his cellar. Just so when his children were young, they wanted to have some sweet juices, and he said, "We don't have any sweet juices here. If you want to drink something from fruits, there's wine here." I mean, it's a joke in a way, but on the other hand, he doesn't want to give them sugar. And whenever he makes wine, he makes sure that all the sugars are, how to say, he makes crude dry wine. That's very good for food, and it doesn't make you tipsy. It's really putting so much attention to making a good wine, so he considers it safe enough for children, safer than juice. So Slovenians can be a bit, how to say, peculiar or eccentric, and Dan is one person like that. Very passionate about organic, very passionate about his land and culture. So yeah, it's hard to imagine. I really would love you to see him in person and experience that.
Yeah. All right, folks, you heard it here first. Wine that's safe for children to drink. Can't be that bad for you. Yeah, so on this tour, we really spend time getting to know the farmers. This is a visit to an olive grove that is also producing olive oil in an organic way. We get to travel into the different regions of Slovenia. This is a photo of the more alpine region, visiting one of the eco hamlets in that region. And actually not only like being a tourist and like taking photos of the outside of people's homes, but we're actually welcomed into their homes, getting to see how they live their lives. This is an emerging eco-village called Motur Potok, or Wet Stream, in another part of Slovenia. We got to hang out with the kids there, see the cool new home construction that they're doing. This is another photo from that same village, some of the tiny home construction. This is a photo of the inside of yet another very interesting handmade home with like crazy architecture, very colorful, also made by a quite eccentric woman who founded a small eco-village project. So really like neat things that you would never have the opportunity to experience without the relationship of somebody like Nara and them trusting Nara enough to open up their homes to these strangers to come experience. And of course, we can't talk about Slovenia without talking about the food and the incredible meals we get to have with these people who are opening up their homes to us. I love this photo of us up in the Alpine region, and of course the big dog there. Is the dog's name Bear? Is that?
No, but it's called Bosnian Shepherd. So this dog is great for chasing away bears, because
Bear,
in
that's
those
what I remember.
places there are bears, and you need something to keep bear away from your garden and
Yeah,
from your
something
animals.
that's as big as a bear.
Mm.
Very sweet. Yeah, and just getting to be inside not only these people's homes, but their kitchens, getting to prepare meals alongside them, getting to enjoy the delicious cuisine from the more Mediterranean region where there are a lot of, olive gardens. And so there's the olive oil and the wine and all the little, seaside treats, different fishes, and then going up more into the Alpine region where it's more of a beer culture and heartier, foods to keep people warm in the winters. And all of that you can find within a country that's the size of the state of Vermont. Truly amazing. Here's another photo of us having a meal at one of our favorite local truffle restaurants. So Belvedere is the name of this restaurant. And in fact, when we were visiting here, the owner was having a health issue that day. So I got to fill in as the waitress and set up the table and bring out the drinks and everything. That was fun. Never thought I got to do that. So coming on this tour truly is an experience of Slovenia off the beaten track. This was us one morning when we were taking off to visit some of the villages here in the hinterlands, and we just set off on a trail that wasn't even there, but Nara knew which way to go to guide us across these fields. So I think that's a good moment to pause and hear more from Nara about who he is and his story. And I'll also chime in to share a bit about myself and my connection with Slovenia and the Ecovillage Tours company more broadly. But I'll go ahead and just stop sharing my screen here for a moment. And yeah, Nara, fill people in on who you are and what it is that you're doing now in Slovenia.
I've been living in community since I was 19. So after 7 years of being intensely immersed in community living, in a type of a commune setup, a spiritual commune, it was very hard for me not to go back to communities. And some years later, when I got to know about
Ooh, uh-oh. I think you froze there for a minute. Hmm. Oh, sorry, folks. I think maybe Nora's internet cut out there. I'm going to see if I can bring him back. Let's see here. Oh, I hate when that happens. Let's see. Let's see if that works. Nara, if you're there, we lost you. Can't hear you. Let me see. Oh, there he goes. All right. Okay. Well, while he's still getting reconnected, I'll just continue on with the presentation, and then hopefully Nara will join back in, and we can continue with hearing more about his story. So, yeah, I'm going to talk now a little bit about this Ecovillage tour that we're offering. I want to get a little bit more into the specifics of it. And when Nara comes back, we'll have more times for story sharing. So, the Slovenia Ecovillage Tour is really designed for people who, first and foremost, want to have an adventure. This is an experience where we're going to be taking you on some longer hikes and drives up narrow, winding roads and visits to beautiful waterfalls and farms and all kinds of places that for some people might be a little uncomfortable, but for other people, it's an edge that they want to explore, getting a little bit outside of the comfort zone and really having an adventure that could be transformational. It's also for people who want to experience what we call luxurious simplicity. So this is not, your typical fancy vacation. This is really an entrance into a different way of living. And we love this term luxurious simplicity. It's a term that comes from the sustainability movement more broadly. And it talks about that juxtaposition between living a luxurious life that's also quite simple and quite rooted and connected with the land. So we'd love for you to get a taste for that on the tour, as well as understanding intentional community in a broader sense. So it's not only that on this tour, we're going to visit, as we do maybe more on our other Ecovillage tours, very specific communities that this is the name of this community, and this is their website, and this is their mission statement, and this is what they're all about. Slovenia really is a country, as we've been talking about, that's suffused with a culture of community. And so we're going to be bringing you to a mix of some traditional villages where people have just been living a sustainable, community-connected life for thousands and thousands of years, as well as some projects that are adopting a little bit more of an innovative approach, bucking the system that has kind of crept up in Europe as it has much of the modern world, and getting back to some of this more traditional lifestyle, of course, with modern technology and modern infrastructure. And this is a tour for you if you really want to meet locals, not as a tourist, but as friends. As we've been talking about, Nara is friends with the people in these communities. So you won't be coming as just a random person. You'll be coming truly as somebody who's tagging along with Nara. And speaking of Nara, I think we got you back. There you are. Okay, good. Whew, I was nervous there for a minute.
I should be. I'm sorry. I was talking about starting communities, and we are going to places that are off the beaten path, and we are off the beaten internet as well. So it
Off
just
the beaten
disappears
internet.
occasionally. That's what we're dealing with in this remote area where I'm living, and I apologize. That's what
Yeah,
happens.
no problem. No problem. Do you want to just pick up where you left off with talking? I
Okay,
think
cool.
you were talking about coming back to community living after spending some years in a more of a tight-knit commune kind of situation. Mhm.
Yes. So after being so immersed in a community, I couldn't just live as an individual separate from other people. I immersed myself in a new community with the crazy picturesque house that Cynthia showed before. That's where I kind of came back into community setup. I helped that build that house that you saw with these colorful walls. I helped I had in most communities in Slovenia, I had a little bit of my hand with a little bit of something at least. So I've been around that for enough time by now. So 2009, I connected with Global Ecovillage Network. And since then, I've been involved with them in various projects, in various even intellectual or like in Europe, we have this good luck that we have European funding available for good ecological contents. So that's what I've been working a lot as well in the recent years. I was connected to Ecovillages, which is a European network of ecovillages, permaculture projects, and transition towns, plus some other networks that work in this field. I'm a writer. Otherwise, I've written 6 books. My book in English, Human Instructions for Use, is available for English readers as well. I'm just finishing my next book in Slovenian. I've written around 300 to 400 essays, articles, and so on that have been published in Slovenian newspapers, magazines, and so on. Also publishing in English a lot. I've been co-authoring many materials, many books. I'm kind of well known in Slovenia and around the world by initiating and supporting one-day trash pickup or cleanup actions, which in Slovenia created a huge community where 13.5% of the population came on one day and cleaned or picked trash in our country. And this spread around the world. Now it's in 190 something countries, including the United States. So I traveled the world. I've been to many countries, and there is one peculiarity about me that you should know about. I've been barefoot for 17 years now. Yeah. So I've been barefoot to 50 countries. And when you go with me around Slovenia, you will experience me barefoot everywhere.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm glad you brought up that point because that is a unique part about you. And of course, people on the tour will get to learn all about why you're barefoot and what that's about and maybe try it themselves.
Yeah, I met CEOs and presidents of countries and mayors of big cities around the world barefoot. Nothing happened to them. Nothing happened to me. All went well,
Yeah.
and it
It's
just
not
gives me.
completely crazy, people.
No, I'm not crazy. I'm a well socially integrated person with one peculiarity. Okay, it's not only one. I have more, but this one is very, very obvious. Well, people like me, people love me, people. I
Yeah.
don't know. I mean, I have friends. It's not like that this affects other
I'm
people's
teasing
opinion
you,
of me.
of course.
Yeah.
Of course they do. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, what you were saying earlier about Slovenes being a bit eccentric. So you're just following in with the local culture. Great. Yeah, and I'll pick up in terms of sharing about the Global Eco-Village Network because that's how Nara and I met 8 years ago, 9 years, I don't know. It's been a long time. And we met at the Global Ecovillage Network conference that happens every year in a different community in Europe. And so we met in Spain, and we're very fortunate to have gotten to travel together throughout Europe, really throughout a lot of Europe, visiting different eco projects. And probably altogether, I've spent maybe, I don't know, close to, I know, a year in one go in Slovenia, and probably between all the other trips, close to 2 years in the country. And for me, that was the genesis of wanting to do an Ecovillage tour because I was just completely falling in love with the people and the culture and wanted to share that with more people. So, I'm someone who I've gotten to travel all around the world, visiting nearly 200 different intentional communities. But of all the places, I really wanted to start with an Eco-Village tour in Slovenia. And I'm so glad that we're doing it again this year and hopefully many years into the future during the month of June, which is such a wonderful time of year to visit the country. And yeah, and so excited to share more about what the tour is all about. So Nara, if you have anything more to add, or I'll hop back over to the slideshow.
You can hop back.
Okay, I'll hop back, and I do see we're getting a lot of questions here in the comments. So keep asking your questions, folks, and once we're done with the presentation, then we will spend some time answering them. So getting back to my presentation here, I just finished sharing about who this trip is a really good fit for. And I want to emphasize for you that honestly, Nara and I were talking about this earlier today, and we were like, yeah, is this statement true? We think it is. This is the only way that you can get intimate access with the eco-village side, the eco-villages, the communities, the locals of Slovenia, because really Nara is the ambassador, the person who spent the time connecting with and connecting these different projects and can bring you there not only as a visitor, but as a mutual friend. So I think that's the main point of the value of this trip that we want to emphasize for you. More specifically, what you'll get on this tour is a 9-day experience. So that's plenty of time to really settle into the country. There's also options if you want to extend your time in Slovenia at Sunny Hills, which is our main base community. You can extend your time there a few days at the beginning or at the end. The tour includes it's all inclusive, so it includes all of your transportation in Slovenia. We pick you up in Koper, which is the closest port town to the community Sunny Hills. It also includes 9 days of amazing, amazing food. I have a photo here that's like not a stock photo. This is a photo of one of the appetizers we were having during one of our olive oil tastings. And
I just
just,
want to say something about this.
yes, say it.
Because, we were sitting there at the table and the people were like, oh my God, it's the first time I'm tasting the olive oil, because these people put so much effort to make olive oil really, really in a genuine way. So whatever you've tasted before doesn't come close to what you can taste there. And they put so much effort to present it in like really beautiful way. I know, it's such a special experience with this gorgeous view of the salt fields. It's just, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just remembering, and I'm looking forward to it myself.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and they even educated us while we were doing the olive tasting about the different grades of olive oil and how truly the olive oil we were getting there is very difficult to find elsewhere. And when Nara mentioned the views to the salt fields, we were, while having this meal, also having salt that was produced in the salt fields that we could see right across from us. So everything was just hyper local, from the olive oil to the salt itself. It was, wow, phenomenal. All right, so where were we? As we've been talking about visits with our friends at local villages, organic farms, restaurants, wine cellars, and a whole variety of sustainability projects. You're also going to get a community through our group of fellow tour participants. And this is something that I'm going to talk more about in the next slides, where I share some of the stories of our past tour participants. But I think it's something that people undervalue or maybe don't expect as much as they should when they come on an experience like this. Like, yeah, you're going to go and visit communities, but you're also going to become part of a community with these amazing people from around the world who are also really passionate about these same topics. So hopefully on this trip, you'll get some relaxation, some adventure, and possibly a little love, because love is in the word Slovenia, and it's true. You really do feel that when you're there, the love of the people for their place that they call home, and the love of the land in giving us so much rich food to enjoy during our time there. Hopefully also this will be clarifying for you if you are considering joining an intentional community, or maybe starting a community project, or just want to foster more community wherever you're living right now. Hopefully this can be an experience that you look back on and we're like, oh yeah, that was clarifying. That really gave me what I needed in a crucial moment in my life where I was deciding between going a bunch of different ways or was looking for something to shake things up in my life. All right, so now I am very excited to share with you some of the stories of our past tour participants, and maybe you'll see yourself in some of these people, and get a better sense for who might be on the tour with you this next time. So I'm going to start here with Kate, who was our European on the last Ecovillage tour, coming from Luxembourg, and was herself on a journey with her big bus, right? That's what she had, Nara, a big van or a big bus that she was using to go on a communities tour after her time in Slovenia and visit a bunch of other different Ecovillage projects. So I think that this really kickstarted her journey in a beautiful way of getting comfortable with the idea of visiting communities and knowing what that was like and how to do that and how to, feel part of a community before setting off on her own solo adventure. So that was Kate's story. We also had Megan, who, when I mentioned earlier about going on an adventure on this trip, Nara and I were thinking specifically about Megan. Nara, do you want to share a story about Megan or tell about her journey on the trip? Because she was definitely one of the more timid ones at some of the experiences.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, timid one. I don't know if she was the timid. I mean, I like the point of people coming from somehow community experience, like having a community experience, and then coming to this different type of community that we have in Slovenian communities are a bit like a scattered hotel. If you know about this model where you have different hosts who are a bit scattered in the landscape, but they are connected into one unit through a hub. So when she experienced this different type of community, she opened up and she just she was almost, I don't know how to put it. I see so much emotion. I remember her enthusiasm and passion, and the most when she was almost crying when we visited this Ecovillage kind of glamping place, and then in the end being really deeply moved by the entire experience. And I don't know, I mean, just she warms my heart just remembering her face and her presence here with this.
Beautiful, beautiful. Then we had Mallory, Mallory and Megan lived in a co-housing community. So that was one of the lived in a co-housing community in Colorado, I believe. And that was one of the questions I saw pop into the chat. Is this only for people who are thinking of moving to Slovenia? And absolutely not. I think both Megan and Mallory were looking to have just an amazing vacation together as community mates, and hopefully to get some inspiration that they could take back to the communities where they were living. And I'll also mention this other woman who was in the photo, who was a more senior member on the tour. So I love that we had a variety of different ages, all kinds of, capacities and backgrounds on the trip. And then we had Jess, and Jess was an absolute delight to have on the tour. And you can see here in his testimonial that he even mentions that you will experience the hidden gem of Slovenia, and emphasizing there the word love in the name Slovenia, because Jess actually found love on our trip with another tour participant. And that was so sweet to see them connecting while we were in these incredibly romantic venues. So we mean it when we say that Slovenia is the country of love. You never know what you'll find when you come on one of our tours. All right. So with that said, I'll talk now briefly about your investment, because we do want you to think of this as an investment in not only the trip of your lifetime, but an investment in yourself on your own journey towards community, towards getting the inspiration and motivation to fuel you on your path going forward in your life. So for this 9-day guided tour with all the different things that we talked about earlier, that's included transportation, meals, accommodations, visits to the communities, we've priced the trip at about $300 per day, which is, I think, a great opportunity compared to having to figure out the logistics of organizing for yourself this kind of experience. And I know for some of you that can still feel like a lot. We do have payment plan options available, so don't feel like this is something that you need to pay for all at one go. All we require to reserve your place is a $500 deposit, and then you can spread out your other payments over time. So I encourage you to go to the web page if you're curious to learn more. Here, I'll pop this up for you, ecovillagetours.com/Slovenia. I will mention that we are in the middle of our early bird sale for this tour. So the price that I just shown you is only available now, today's Saturday, through tomorrow, Sunday, April 7th. So after that, you can still register for the tour, but it will be an additional $400. Okay, so if you want to get the deal, think about it a little bit, but then really make your decision by tomorrow. And for the people on this webinar, and only for the people who are watching this webinar, I want to offer you an additional limited time deal that's only good through tomorrow, April 7th. With the discount code Cynthia, which is my name, Cynthia, easy to remember, you'll get an additional $300 off of this tour. And you'll also get a 1-hour coaching and consulting call with me. It's optional, but if you choose, I've been consulting and coaching with people who are looking to join intentional communities as well as start new intentional communities. And I want to give this to you because I'm likely not going to be on this upcoming Slovenia tour. And I still want to have a chance to connect with whoever is coming on the tour. So would be delighted to connect with you and do what I can to support you on your journey. So just go ahead and use that discount code Cynthia to get an additional $300 off the tour price that we showed earlier, as well as to reserve a 1-hour coaching and consulting call with me that you can use at any time. All right, so I think that's everything that we have to share with you, and I really hope that you consider coming on this 9-day Ecovillage Tour of Slovenia, happening on June 22nd through the 30th. And there we have again the website, ecovillagetours.com/Slovenia, if you feel like going ahead and signing up. Okay, whew, beautiful. Well, I'm going to remove my screen share there, and I want to now spend our final bit of time. I think we have 15 minutes or so to answer your questions. So please, folks, if you have any questions at all for myself or for Nara about us, about this tour, about Slovenia in general, we are here to answer your questions. And I know we already had a few come in, so I'm going to go back here and see what we have. So we have a question here from Alan, I believe that's how you pronounce it. Is this intended for people looking to relocate to Slovenia? And I would say that there are some people who may be intending to relocate to Slovenia who want to join this tour to get an experience for what Slovenia is all about and make some connections. But I would say most of the people attending the tour don't have that desire to relocate yet, maybe. Maybe some of them are thinking about it possibly for the future. But we've gotten a lot of people who come on this trip just because they want to experience Slovenia without necessarily moving there. However, Nara, I wonder if you could speak to a little bit what it is like to move to Slovenia as a foreigner. As I know, you and I are connected with some Americans who've made the transition to living in Slovenia. If you want to speak to what that process is like and what somebody could expect.
For Americans, it's much easier to come to Slovenia than vice versa. For Slovenia going to the US, it's much more complicated. It's very, if you have online work in the US, you will find Slovenia very affordable. Plus, it's the European luxuries of having free education, European luxuries, Slovenians particularly in this case, of having very good free education, very good health services for very little money, and a gorgeous environment, great food. You just need to bear with the language that's very different to English. However, most people speak English here, so it's very, very easy to move around and to communicate with just about everyone. Hardly, like you'll find places where people don't speak English, but they mostly do.
Yeah, that was something that I really appreciated about spending time in Slovenia is really, like you say, pretty much everyone speaks English. Now, do they prefer to speak English when they're among Slovenians? No, of course not, because it's a small country. Not that many people speak the language. And so they really, celebrate that and want to preserve their language. So, yeah, it is. It's something that I've thought about many times myself moving to Slovenia. And I always say if Slovenia was in the United States, I would move there in a heartbeat. So thank you for that question. And Alan, I think you had another question here. Is raw milk common? Nara, you want to answer this question?
At Sunny Hill, you'll get raw milk from our goats every morning and every evening or wherever you want it. And there are places elsewhere where we stop, especially in the Alpine region. It's quite common to get raw milk. Also, freshly made butter made by the neighbors of our friends in the Alps, and fresh cheeses also made all from raw milk. Yeah, it's quite common. Yeah. Okay, it's quite common where we are moving, not in the cities.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, on this Ecovillage tour, it's common. Yeah, not only can you drink the raw milk from the goats there at Sunny Hills, you can also milk the goats yourself. Doesn't get much more fresh than that. Nara, I wonder if you want to share a little bit, because we've mentioned Sunny Hills a few times, but I wonder if you could share a little bit more about the project there, because that will be, for everyone listening, Sunny Hills or Sotni Grič as it's said in Slovene, is the home base for the tour. So that's where we'll start the tour. The first few days, we'll do a wonderful road trip away, and then we'll return for the last few days of the tour. But Nara, would you want to share about the project?
Yes, Sunny Hill is a relatively young project, started 10 years ago. And it was a bunch of us who wanted to establish an eco-village. Things went a different route than what we planned, but we ended up renovating a beautiful old abbey or rectory next to a church, and establishing a place where there is a few of us maintaining the place, hosting volunteers, hosting groups and events, and buying more property in the area to keep including more people. And because as much as you can call, as you can see love in Slovenia, you can also see slow in Slovenia. So we tend to move a little bit more slowly especially than Americans. So in this project, we are not rushing it. We are moving slowly. And instead of focusing on creating a community on location only, we are spreading our network to the region and creating like a more spread out community with the locals in the area, which is I find it a much smarter way of building community than just creating a bubble around yourself, some kind of wall. So that's basically how Sunny Hill functions, and how we established ourselves in this place. So here we will be staying in a beautiful old house with thick stone walls. It's a dry stone building. It's simple living. That's how we live, and we are going to share basically our home with you. And I hope you're going to like it. And yeah, that's basically what I can say about. Maybe you can add more because you've experienced the place and you know it well as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I'm sure they're going to like it. It's a 200-year-old building. Wow. I mean, for me, coming from the United States, where you don't find any buildings so old, it just really has this very special character. And I think they've done an amazing job with repairing the walls that are, so thick. It's amazing this to be in a structure that has so much depth and mass. And as we were talking about earlier, the community itself is situated on a hilltop. So it's right kind of within a old village where all of the homes are 200 years plus old, made out of stone. And then you walk up a little bit of ways and you can see from the hilltop across the Adriatic Sea on a clear day all the way to Venice, and then the mountains in the distance. So talk about an idyllic location. When I stand on top of this hill and I can see everything around me, just a 360-degree view, I really feel like I know my place on Earth. And that is a powerfully grounding experience for me, and one of my favorite parts of spending time at Sunny Hills. And then, of course, you can hear the goats making their sounds off in the distance, and you can see down to where the community has their many fields that produce the food that you eat in your meal. Nearly all of the vegetables at Sunny Hill are grown right there from the community members. So yeah, I mean, we could talk it up for days and days, but I think it's something that people just need to go and experience for themselves. All right. Well, with that, I think we'll begin to wrap it up. Thank you, everyone, so much for your time today and your interest in Slovenia. Thank you for watching, and we hope that we'll see you on the Ecovillage Tour happening in June this year, 2024. And thank you so much, Nara. Thank you for your time today and also for being our guide on this trip. It's really special to have you part of this whole thing and leading this trip for our group.
I'm glad to be of service to you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Thanks, everyone. Take care. We'll see you soon. Mm.